And now, it's 10 a.m.
Let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. A very happy Friday to you. A very happy second day of the NCAA Tournament. We are live on location at JCW Burgers in South Jordan, 10660 South, Riverfront Parkway. Like I mentioned, in South Jordan. Get off the 106 South exit. Head west. We will be on the south side of the road. You cannot miss us. Stop on by. We just got here. They just opened up, so if you're looking for a place to come on down, watch some games today, they've got the CBS turned on as we get ready for Baylor. It's about to tip off here momentarily, but we are going to be down here all day through Alex and JJ as well, so we'll be here until 6 o'clock tonight, so make sure you come on down, hang out, grab yourself some terrific food, mention Zone when you are checking out, get 10% off of your entire order. So come on down and see us, JCW's in South Jordan, 10660 South, Riverfront Parkway in South Jordan. But before we get to the tournament, including BYU's big win yesterday over VCU, we're going to talk about another big win in the state. Last night, it was the Utah Hockey Club snapping that losing streak by taking down the Buffalo Sabres in an exciting, albeit somewhat ugly and strange game. Let's get to our Utah Hockey Club insider, Cole Bagley. His visit's always brought to you by Hercules First Credit Union, growing stronger together. What's going on, Cole?
Just trying to keep up in this playoff push for the Utah Hockey Club, but another win, and their playoff hopes stay alive.
I was a little bit worried after the 7-1 loss against Edmonton that a young team that could cause them to fall apart. Maybe that would be hard to recover. They had to pull Vejmelka. And they bounced back, and no, it wasn't ugly last night, but they fell behind early, am I wrong, and then battled back and ended up getting felt like an easy win. It didn't look like an easy win.
No, the final score was not a true reflection of how difficult that game was to win for the Utah Hockey Club. Buffalo has no chance of making the playoffs, so they're definitely playing, they were definitely playing the role of spoiler, and obviously with, the way that Utah lost 2 of the last 3 games on their road trip, and some of the results that came in last night in terms of the teams ahead of them, they were desperate to pick up 2 points. If they would have lost, that would have pushed them down to a 6-point spread, which would have put them on incredibly thin ice. They would have had to play near perfect hockey and win just about every game if they lost last night. But I think the difference was. They fought, they battled, they did everything that they could to find a way to get a win. And it wasn't the prettiest win by any means. It was definitely a greasy goal from Dylan Guenther and a greasy win overall. But hey, it counts the same in the standings. And as you were talking about earlier, I think there was definitely a concern that. A 7-1 loss could really deflate a young team, especially as they're trying to play meaningful hockey. But, that's why they brought in guys like Ian Cole and Ole Mata and Kevin Stenlin and Robert Bortuzzo. Those veteran voices in the locker room have done a lot. I talked with Ian Cole about it yesterday, and, you can just tell why Utah not only brought him on this year, but they extend him another season. He's a decorated player. He's got 2 Stanley Cups. And specific to his Stanley Cups, he had to fight and crawl and battle to even make the playoffs. And that with that first one in Pittsburgh. So it's invaluable what those guys are bringing, and I would credit. Their presence and experiences as to why Utah was able to bounce back.
So my apologies. That was not the come-from-behind victory. I apologize on that. The late game antics that we saw, the 2 empty netters that were just bizarre, but you mentioned Dylan Guenther's goal that he scored. It's his 9th game-winning game-winning goal of the season. As a 20-year-old, it's pretty amazing. Was he 21 now? To see him have that type of production. But same with Logan Cooley. I mean, this is a playoff push, and you've got 2 of the younger kids on the team making some of the biggest plays night in and night out.
Yeah, I believe that, the Utah Hockey Club has two of the most productive players under the age of 22 on their roster. I think they might be 2 and 3 on the list. And it speaks volumes to, the fact that, Bill Armstrong drafted those guys. Ben, as you know, top 10 picks are not always promised to be, phenomenal assets. They don't always develop the way that you hope. And in the NHL, a lot of times it can take even longer to get players up to speed. It can take multiple seasons in lower leagues to get there. But both of these guys were pretty much ready right out of the gate. And, they've taken massive leaps in their game. And I think, really the word that comes to mind with those two is clutch. That's what makes them special. And that's what's going to help them, potentially become stars and even superstars is, elite players, big players come up in big moments. And that was, the story last night. Cooley gets, he opens the scoring. And then, Dylan Guenther, comes through with another game winner, his 9th of the season, as you added. And I believe that's tied for 2nd or 3rd in the NHL. So, to have a guy that's only 21 years old and hasn't even fully hit his new contract yet until this next season, it shows how much potential and promise this team has looking ahead to the future.
Get an update on the Utah Hockey Club with our insider, Cole Bagley. Cole, how important was last night's win, considering that their next 5 games or 4 games are Tampa twice, Detroit, and then on the road at Florida?
You got to pick up the quote-unquote easy ones, right? I've said a lot of times there's no easy games in the National Hockey League, but when a team like Buffalo comes to town who is has no chance of making the playoffs, that struggled immensely, that has not been winning very many games, and has kind of been a mess in a lot of ways. Yeah, you absolutely have to pick up those wins. There's no there's no ifs, ands, or buts. And they were able to do it. Like I said, it was not pretty. It was a greasy win. It was a wild ending with an own goal by Buffalo and another empty netter by Utah that ultimately, put the game out of reach. But yeah, like I said earlier, they were staring with their backs against the wall at potentially 6 points out from the wild card spot. Not that was necessarily a death sentence by any means to their playoff hopes, but it would have made things incredibly difficult. So to pick up 2 points, to stay 4 points out, things can change. If you look at, I think about 2 weeks ago, the St. Louis Blues had the lowest chances of making the playoffs. I think they were down about 11 or 12%, but they picked up, I think, 4 or 5 wins out of their last 6, and look where they're at. They're leading the pack now. So things can change. Things can flip on a dime, and Utah's doing the right thing by grinding out wins and staying in the fight and battling. This is something that this organization has not been able to do for a long time. So I think it demonstrates the growth. It illustrates how many steps they've taken forward, and not only playing meaningful hockey, but continuing that window. Right? They easily could have dropped out this last week, but they picked up a couple wins to stay in the race, and they're still fighting.
Cole, I'm not the lifelong NHLer that you are, but we saw something last night that may have never happened in NHL history. Kevin Stenlund, as you mentioned, he scored a goal despite the fact that he had committed the penalty on the play, which usually the next time that club that commits the penalty touches the puck, the whistle is blown and he has to go off the ice. But he draws the penalty. It's a delayed penalty. And Buffalo accidentally scores on their own empty net when they could have had a two-man advantage in a 1-point game. I thought that was a crazy outcome and just the type of puck luck I guess you have to have sometimes to win these games.
Yeah, it's not the first time that's ever happened.
Huh.
It actually happened, the Coyotes and the Canucks in 2009. Similar situation where there's a delayed penalty. The player who last touched it, keeps the credit, and it accidentally ends up in the other team's net, and that guy gets to celebrate a goal. So, yeah, it's wild. It's something that I have never seen before. But yeah, there's with how long the NHL has been around, it's not often that something hasn't happened before, but it is incredibly rare. It just was kind of some puck luck, and Utah definitely needed that to go their way so that they could avoid a disastrous situation as Buffalo brought on the extra attacker to go up another goal, and then of course they get another empty netter and win by 3.
Okay, big weekend coming up for the Utah Hockey Club. Big week ahead. Tampa at home coming up on Saturday tomorrow at 3 p.m. Monday at home against the Red Wings. And then they go on the road for a big 3-game road trip at Tampa, at Florida, at Chicago. Our conversation with Cole Bagley brought to you by Hercules First Credit Union, growing stronger together. Cole, thanks for jumping on. Follow all of his coverage at KSLSports.com, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, I'll talk to you next week.
There he is, Cole Bagley, giving us a breakdown on a nice win last night from the Utah Hockey Club. But as we mentioned, not the only big win in the state or by a local team. Jake, BYU does get the victory yesterday over VCU and looked pretty convincing in the second half.
How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm fine. It's great to be here at JCW. Super excited about it. South Jordan. This is kind of the location I'm most familiar with. This is the one that is kind of near and dear to my heart. My wife works in the area.
Okay.
So we end up at this locale every now and again. So happy to be here. BYU, I thought, was awesome. Like, I thought they handled all the, things that you worried about. I mean, slow start, not really. I mean, They didn't get, blast out of the gates by any means, but, slow start, not really. They really handled, their defensive rebounding incredibly well, which was something that they were worried about. I thought Richie Saunders found a lot of ways to affect a game that weren't necessarily him having to score 30.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And was in foul trouble early.
He was. And had, figured out a way. I thought Foose was freaking awesome. I thought BYU played terrifically well. I honestly had a lot of doubts about their chances against Wisconsin. I feel way better about those chances today. Now, Wisconsin's a way different team.
Totally different.
They're going to have to play a completely different game. But and maybe I'm sounding like a broken record, but I think this year the difference is this team is capable of finding different ways to win ball games. So I think that's a real strength for them. But I don't think there's really anything but positives to say about BYU and their performance yesterday.
I think if you just looked at the box score and you saw that VCU knocked down 15 of 38 threes and BYU only hit 7 threes, you would have thought this would have been a different result. But BYU really was in control the entire game.
The whole game.
VCU trimmed it down to 10 a couple of times in the second half, but never really made a push at it. And now, BYU snaps that losing streak in the first round of the NCAA tournament and makes a jump forward. And the player we haven't talked about yet who just continues to be the most critical player for BYU, seemingly night in and night out, is Kebaketa. He changes the game. He's a total intimidator down low. I would treat him differently than I've seen teams treat him so far, but that's easy to say from my seat as opposed to actually being on the floor with him. But he jumped out with 4 blocks and nearly had the double-double with 9 points and 9 rebounds. He's a major difference maker, and he is hard to match up with physically for most teams in NCAA basketball.
If he could make his free throws, he'd be way more playable. He only played 20 minutes, so and I realized he picked up fouls, too. There were a lot of fouls in that game.
Yeah.
Just NCAA tournament basketball just reminds me of how clunky these games are. It's crazy. They could have a way better product on their hand if it wasn't. Get rid of some of the timeouts. Fire all of the officials. Just start from scratch there.
Yeah.
And stop the commercial timeouts all the time.
There's a lot. There's a lot they could do to improve the flow of the game.
Man, it's wild. Yeah, all day yesterday. Just a reminder of how clunky the end of these games are. No one's happier today that the NCAA tournament streak is broken than Greg Wrubell.
Okay.
And I was in the car for part of the game yesterday. Yep. So, flipping into Wrubell as I'm driving downtown actually to the studio to record a spot. And, I get in the car, I flip over to Greg, and this is in the second half. And the way he's calling, when I dropped in, I thought, oh, this thing unraveled. I mean, I was only out of touch with the game for like 2 minutes, and this thing really unraveled on the Cougs. Like the way Greg was sounding, I was like, wow.
It's gotten bad.
Oh, man, it's got bad. And then he hits the score, and BYU's still up like 17 or something like that. I was like, okay, Greg, I know they haven't won in a while, and that you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. I get it. And BYU did blow a 26-point lead in Dayton one year. So I understand he's been through a lot. But I did have that reaction. Like, I was only out of touch with the game for like a minute or two, and I flip on the radio, and I'm listening to Greg do his thing. And it was like, whoa, hey, what happened? Did VCU go Warriors? Was it just a flurry of threes, and all of a sudden it's a 3-point game or something? Like what Clemson did against – who was it? They still lost, but against High Point.
Was it High Point?
Yeah.
McNeese State.
McNeese, it was the big upset yesterday. Yeah. Will Wade. Shout out to Heath Schroyer, former BYU assistant, who's the athletic director at McNeese. But the Tigers erased what, Ben? It was 20-plus point lead?
It was 31-13 early.
Yeah.
And then it was a 2-point game, the final. So, it can get bad quickly.
For sure, yeah. Jumping the guards. Oh, and another turnover for the Cougs. Anyway, so BYU, Wisconsin, that's going to be a great game. We'll talk about it, obviously, throughout the day. Come out here to JCW's, as Ben said earlier, just off the 106 South exit. Head west, right across the street from Mulligan's, basically. It's super easy to get to. The food is terrific. We're excited to be here. We're going to be here throughout the day. We'll have top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com. Coming up next, Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's that time of year.
The tournament is now underway.
Hey, who do you have going all the way?
What do you have going all the way?
Keep tabs on your selections now by logging on to KSLSports.com and following all the action on the Basketball Mayhem page.
I love college basketball.
It's your chance to win cold, hard cash. The KSL Sports Basketball Mayhem is powered by Omada Real Estate. Download the free Omada app today from the real estate experts as the Stern Team. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. This is the top 3 stories of the day on KSLSports.com. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, want to remind you to nominate the youth sports volunteer for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at KSLSports.com/contests. And listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact. For the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. We're live from JCW's. We're here in South Jordan. It's right off the 106 exit, south exit off I-15. Head west, and it's right across the street from Mulligan's. I always thought Mulligan's was really lucky to have their own stoplight right there.
Yeah.
So,
easy to get in.
Yeah, you just hang a left, and then JCW's is right there. It's super easy to find. Come in and see us, watch all of the games. Currently, Baylor is underway. Who are they playing, Ben? I don't know.
Mississippi
State. That's right. I can't. I need glasses. Where's my glasses? Oh, yeah, I've been shamed out of wearing them.
Do you want me to wear mine?
No.
I should wear mine.
And where is his glasses? He can't see without his glasses.
Time for the top 3 stories of the day, brought to you by at KSLSports.com, brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. Cherish your love with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials. All right, Christian, where do you want to start today?
Number 1, what a day yesterday. I don't think any of our brackets remain perfect.
All right, that is the lead. That how we're very self-involved on this show. And I know people are very curious as to how we did with our brackets.
How are we doing?
Yesterday. And we will talk about actual basketball, but nobody cares about that. I've got it up in front of me. Ben.
Okay. How's the leaderboard looking?
And, of course, we're talking about the celebrity leaderboard.
Uh-huh.
The celebrity bracket, because the listeners are far better. But Alma Bean and Parker Long are in the lead in the celebrity.
2 producers.
2 of the bigger celebrities in the bracket, I would argue, or in the group. with 14, which obviously is a good day. If you beat Jeremiah Jensen, you're in the running for the $500. Jeremiah had a good day yesterday. 13 correct picks. And, so now to get to our show.
Just scroll a bit.
Scrolling. Still scrolling. 11. You and I both got 11 correct first round picks.
Okay.
Ben, which is quite depressing.
Not good.
It is not good in the slightest. The only thing that is making me feel better, the only thing, and I mean only because I think Lloyd is even beating me. Yeah, Lloyd has 13.
Okay.
It's that Christian had 10.
Yeah, Christian way down there at the bottom.
Christian had 10. He's not quite at the bottom. Our friend
Nate
Dowdle is currently in the cellar.
Talk to me after today.
Picks.
Let's check in after today. We'll see.
But at least I'm beating Christian, and it made me feel a little better than I'm beating Jake Hatch.
We're all happy to be doing that. I don't have any major runners other than I think I had Clemson getting the Sweet 16. I had them in the Elite Eight.
Currently losing to
Sweet 16. I had Clemson in the Sweet 16, losing to Houston. So.
Currently losing to Lloyd. It's pretty humiliating. I need to have a better day today.
Well, you can go check out the Basketball Mayhem.
I felt good about my Creighton pick, and I've got Creighton beating Auburn in the next round.
Okay.
So we'll see how that goes.
It's going to be tough. Auburn's really good.
The SEC has been overrated so far.
It has been a little bit.
Ben, the SEC has been overrated.
But Auburn did not look overrated, but I'm with you.
Don't bet against Gonzaga.
Yeah, that was good. They looked impressive.
Yes, they did look impressive. All right, let's see. Let's get to the actual basketball. We talked a lot about BYU. They looked very good in their first round matchup. Utah State, Ben?
Did not look good.
No.
They looked really bad.
No, and maybe we should I picked the Aggies. Maybe we should have seen this coming a little bit more because it got bad there at the end of the year. And, I don't know. Coach Calhoun gets an extension. I think that's awesome. Good for him. I think he earned it. I hope he – he did not sign. Okay.
No, they offered an addendum, but nothing has been agreed upon
Nothing has
yet.
been signed. Oh, thank you, Christian. I thought I saw that he had agreed to that. So, anyway, we'll see how that story goes then. But – This probably was foreseeable, this outcome.
Yeah, they were not playing great basketball at the end of the year, which is when you want to be playing your best basketball. And on the flip side, you look at a team like Colorado State, who's a very hot upset pick to make a deep run because of how they have played recently to get into the tournament and to win the Mountain West Conference tournament. Is more popular, obviously, than what Utah State was doing. And Utah State shot 30% from the floor and 12% from three.
Well, UCLA can guard.
You can't win a game when you shoot that poorly.
No.
30% and 12% is it's unwinnable.
No, you're not going to win.
I thought Paul played okay. Not great. Nobody played great, but he was a lone highlight for a very tough performance from Utah State. But a good year.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he's a great player.
Yeah, he's really, really good. And maybe I guess I underestimated UCLA. Are you buying the Bruins,
no.
Or were the Aggies just not there?
Aggies just weren't great.
No, it's too bad. Christian, how was Scotty's call? Was he down? Was he okay?
There was a lot of excitement, but I think once the reality set in, it got pretty sad.
It got pretty. Our poor Scotty. All right. What about the rest of the? We mentioned it briefly, but McNeese State is kind of your Cinderella so far. McNeese.
Yeah, it was kind of a bad first day. I mean, there was a couple of games that got close late, but it was pretty boring. It was mostly duds until the evening. Michigan had an okay game late, and even they started to pull away a little bit. So I thought it was mostly duds.
I told you UC San Diego was good.
Yeah, they were good. They had a chance. They missed that three late to could have potentially sent it to overtime. I think BYU-Wisconsin is going to be a good game. I'm excited for this one. I watched some Wisconsin this morning. Their guard, Tanji, is going to be maybe the best player BYU has faced this year. He's really good. He can put a lot of pressure on BYU's defense, so I'm curious how they handle it. And they've got a couple of big guys up front who have good size. They looked great against Montana because Montana's tiny. BYU's going to do a much better job with their size against these big guys, but they can also spread the floor a little bit. So I'll be curious. I'm excited for this game. This is going to be a really good matchup. And again, John Tanji, who played at Colorado State and has transferred to Wisconsin, I'm surprised he's not getting more buzz as a second-round pick in the NBA. He's old. He's like 23, 24, but he is very talented with the ball in his hands. So that's going to be a tough matchup and nothing that won't resemble VCU in the slightest.
Get old, stay old.
It's a good place to be.
I'm telling you. All right, game. We have a game currently going on. Ben Ballore trails Mississippi State 16-14.
What a game. How's VJ Edgecombe playing? 0 for 2.
So far, a real barn
burner, yeah.
Barn burner, barnstormer. That's something different. Robert Morris, Alabama, will start at 10:40 on the True TV. And let's see, 11:30, Lipscomb, Iowa State. And then at noon, everybody's favorite upset pick, for good reason, Colorado State and Memphis.
Yeah.
On TBS. What's your favorite True TV show?
What's on True TV?
The last time I watched True TV was I watched the stupid show where they repo cars.
Okay,
do you remember that?
Yeah,
What was that called?
Pimp My Ride?
No,
American Pickers?
No,
something like that.
No, it was like Repo Men or something.
Oh, okay,
but they were all the repo interactions. It's like when you're towing like these cars and people get mad and you see all these crazy people, right?
Yeah.
But you find out it's all reenactments.
Of course, yeah, right.
It's
None of it's
not
real. Yeah. No one's. They're not going to.
It's like based on real. It's like, is it? I don't think.
Well, Cheaters ruined that, right? Didn't someone get shot on Cheaters and they were like, "We
the
can't do this."
The host got stabbed.
We can't do this anymore.
No, the host got stabbed.
Well, good for Cheaters.
We've talked about Cheaters a couple times. That is
it was a good
the
show.
Pinnacle of American television.
Yeah. It was all after that went off the air. It was all downhill.
All downhill. I mean,
Practical
literally,
Jokers is really good.
Literally the greatest idea for a reality show ever. Cheaters.
What a concept.
Going to hire some PIs to follow people who are obviously cheating on their significant other.
And we're both going to be embarrassed.
And then we're going to set them up to
They got
meet.
caught cheating, and I'm embarrassed because I'm getting cheated on.
You remember that idiot host running after him with the TV screen? Like, if you see here, you're clearly cheating.
Unsurprised, he got stabbed. Number 2.
Number 2, the Jazz. Speaking of stabbing, they welcomed Boston to town tonight.
Speaking of stabbing.
Talk about
what, are the
Boston.
Celtics going to stab somebody?
The fans are crazy, man.
Are they stabby?
Hopefully not. Boston comes into Utah. Obviously, Boston's trying to they've got that number 2 seed locked up in the East. They're not going to be able to catch Cleveland for number 1, so they're trying to make a stabbing pun. They're trying to stay sharp, but they are not necessarily having to win every game. Now, the Jazz have a very lengthy injury report, including Lauri Markkanen remains out for personal reasons. John Collins still has the ankle injury. So you're not going to see 2 of the Jazz's top players in the front court. KJ Martin remains out. Taylor Hendricks, we know, is out. Svi Mikhailiuk questionable. Jaden Springer questionable. So you'll see most of the backcourt. Jordan Clarkson, Keontae George, and Colin Sexton all available tonight for the Jazz, but it probably should not be enough to beat up on the Celtics.
I was hoping VHT would be able to give it a go.
Revenge game?
Yeah, this
former Celtics team.
Revenge game.
Jazz did get a little help in the standings last night. The Charlotte Hornets upset the New York Knicks. The Knicks continue to...
Did you send out the tweet?
I did.
Yes.
Send out the tweet. The Knicks continue to just look miserable down the stretch, and they are playing without Jalen Brunson. But the Jazz are now... When it comes to the lottery standings, quickly, they are 2.5 games back of the Hornets with 12 to play. I don't think the Jazz will catch up to Charlotte.
Well, I don't think we've talked about the mutiny that's going on with the Knicks, which is incredible. I can't believe it's taken this long to talk about.
To get to it.
The Mikal Bridges is leading a mutiny.
He said we're playing too much.
He said, Coach. He went to the coach. He's like, Coach, you're just burning this team. You're just burning these players out, man. We're playing way too much.
Yeah.
Bing bang. All right. Any other thoughts on the Jazz? Anything they got to do tonight? I think they're probably
not doing anything tonight.
Probably going to get steamrolled either way.
Yep. Tonight's about losing.
All right. What's next?
Number 3, Utah basketball. They have announced an assistant coaching hire.
We figured this would start to come out for the Utes at some point. Raphaiel Chillious is joining the Utes. This is actually exactly the type of guy I would be looking for if I was the University of Utah. He's coached at a lot of different schools all over the country, so he's done the recruiting thing. One of the names we've talked about a lot, or a school we've talked about a lot, is like kind of a weird spot that Lorenzo Romar didn't have success at winning, but had a lot of success recruiting, was at Washington. And Chillious was an assistant under Romar at Washington. You got to have talent. So if Raphaiel Chillious has the ability to, recognize talent, find talent, has some of those relationships, that's a major plus for Alex Jensen.
Yeah, you've got to have a guy who's plugged in.
Yeah. Now, he's also been in the NBA. He's coached with the Grizzlies, so he can drop the Jaw card. He can drop the Jaren Jackson Jr. card. And I know you had heard kind of that Alex Jensen was going to look for some more NBA-related assistant coaches. This guy checks both boxes.
And I honestly think that's important. He needs to hire guys who are dialed in. I think one of the reasons that Kevin Young is having so much success is the staff that he put together. Getting Burgess was a strong move for him. I mean, he's speaking of a guy who's plugged in locally, and he's coached under some coaches who've had a lot of success. But did you have a chance to hear John Linehan this morning with DJ and PK? If folks out there didn't hear it, they should grab it in podcast form. He is super impressive, and he talked about his connection with Kevin Young and where he came from. And he was back at St. Joe's, but he's been at a bunch of different places. And obviously he's a younger guy. But Kevin Young met him when he was coaching with the Sixers, and they had the Sixers practiced. He said he was an assistant on Temple. He was a GA, at Temple. And they practiced in Temple's gym or whatever. And so Kevin is an assistant, and John is a young. And just to clarify,
not
assistant.
Johnny Linehan,
not the punter.
John Linehan,
I was confused.
A different person
I was
entirely.
Confused briefly too.
A different sport entirely.
Hashtag not punter.
Yeah.
Anyway, Kevin, they just got to know each other there, and then they had a couple of different connections. But long story short, it's obvious that Kevin spotted him as like a talented young person a long time ago. And if you listen to the interview, you're going to come away and go, God, that's an impressive person right there. You know, Kevin spotted him as a GA probably and thought, regardless of where my road goes, that might be somebody that's going to create value on a coaching staff. And he wasn't a quote-unquote pro guy or whatever. He was just somebody Kevin spotted as potential coaching talent. And I find that impressive because I think the best staffs have guys that have different strengths, because being an assistant coach is not about coaching, and it's important who they hire. Like these hires are really important. You got to like the background of this guy, Chillious. Yeah. You got to like it. He's a mover and shaker at the college level. I don't care about his NBA experience, to be honest. They'd have to have a guy who's plugged in. Now, if you go with somebody who's an NBA guy, it makes it a little easier because you've got somebody who knows what the college scene's about.
But you got to have the connections. Yep. Alex Jensen probably doesn't have them right now. So good to have somebody who does.
Hasn't been in the game for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
No, longer.
At least.
12.
Yeah.
All right. No, because G League time on top of that. Yeah. So 15?
15 years, yeah.
All right. Stay tuned. More from JCW's in South Jordan. Baylor has come back. Baylor leads Mississippi State 23-21. I'm pulling for the Big 12, man.
Yeah. I want to see VJ come play as many games as possible.
Stay tuned. More next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, bro. You hear us every day with our crazy opinions. Hey, what you doing? Well, now it's time to hear from you.
Hey, great show.
Download the KSL Sports app and fire off your thoughts with the call-in tab on the bottom of your screen.
Your show is fantastic. It's the one that captivates me the most.
You can tell PK to stop singing.
Cheap bangs! Cheap bangs!
Let Jake and Ben know what you really think of the Jazz. Woo! Tell Hans and Scotty about your favorite barbecue spot or what color of tie JJ should be wearing on TV. The best entries will be played on the air. Download the KSL Sports app now and hit the call-in button to let your voice be heard.
I think you guys do an incredible job.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. What's that? Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, These guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, this segment brought to you by Peach Doors and Windows. Amazing home transformations begin with Peach, where 5-star reviews are the norm. Call them today for your free in-home estimate, 801-566-1255. Also, Win Ticket Wednesday, your chance to win big every week on the KSL Sports Zone. Next week, you'll be able to win tickets to the Offspring in the Supercharged Worldwide in 25 Tour, September 6th at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. They're coming with special guests Jimmy Eat World and Newfound Glory. Get tickets now at livenation.com or listen to the KSL Sports Zone all Wednesday for your chance to win. We are live at JCW's in South Jordan, just off of 106 South, west of I-15. Very easy to get here. Join us, watch game number 2 of the NCAA Tournament, and eat fantastic food. Ben, breaking news, and Cole Bagley's got a write-up on this up at KSLSports.com, but NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman has confirmed that Utah will get an outdoor game. He said, quote, "An outdoor game is in Utah's future. Utah is going to get an outdoor game, and it's going to be great because I know the reaction from the community is going to be as good as we've ever seen." Apparently, they've reportedly sent representatives to go check out Rice-Eccles Stadium, but Bettman did not confirm that is indeed the place. He said, quote, "We've had people look at the stadium at the University of Utah. This is an ideal situation for us, an outdoor game in Utah's future, but we're not going to break news because I don't have a date yet."
Ryan Smith had teased that this was in the works for a while now, so not a major surprise. There'd been some hope that it would be the Winter Classic. It will not be the Winter Classic, most likely. They do two different things. The Winter Classic they play on New Year's Eve every day. Maybe it's New Year's, or every year, I should say. The problem is they said there's a chance Utah's hosting a college football playoff game, so they can't schedule that date several years out, not knowing what Utah football is going to be doing. So it'll be a part of the quote-unquote stadium series where they do a tour around other stadiums in NHL cities to play outdoors.
No offense to Rice-Eccles Stadium, which is indeed a fine venue, but huge missed opportunity if they do it there.
Okay.
Got to be bold. Got to make headlines.
Okay, where are you thinking?
I'm thinking, and we're going to have to get some scientists to work on this because this might be difficult, and it could be quite expensive. But freeze over the Great Salt Lake.
Okay, really difficult to do. Saline is a problem.
Freeze it over. Can you imagine, Ben, the headlines?
Yeah.
You could put like some sort of grandstand at the Great Salt Air.
Okay.
And then freeze over that portion of the Great Salt Lake.
Okay.
I don't know if it's physically possible.
Yeah, I don't know. How much of it does it ever freeze at all? It's so salty.
No,
I can't imagine
of course it doesn't. No.
Not even like on the edges. They're not like, the snow gets out there a little bit. It gets slushy.
The snow doesn't get within a mile of it.
Because it's so salty. Okay. Yeah, we have to work on some things.
See?
It's going to be frigid.
It'd be like a feat of science and a hockey game at the same time.
I do like the idea that there's a risk that a player falls through the ice, and it's just like, occupational hazard.
The brine shrimp's going to get him.
Yeah, something's going to happen. I'm sorry. You're out. You're in the penalty box. It's the ice box. You're under the water.
Well,
hopefully
it wouldn't be under anything because at that part of the Great Salt Lake is probably
yours up to your waist.
Deep.
But this is cool.
See?
This is very cool news.
That would be awesome. Or how about at Liberty Park?
Did they ever make?
Don't they have a pond there?
They have a pond. Yeah, it had an oil leak not too long ago, so that would be tough. You have to get rid of the ducks.
I don't think it's big enough either, but it could be.
It might be. Depending on if you go east-west, it might be long enough. Can you make exceptions to sell beer up at Utah at the stadium?
Well, actually, I don't know now. My understanding was it used to be against the law, but they sell booze in that or do something with alcohol in that north end zone thing.
Okay. There's got to be
but I don't know.
I would think there would want to be some way around
I don't know how they do that, but
yeah, I don't know.
I think they do that.
They'll probably find some way around it for this event if it happens.
Or they should just change the law.
I have no problem with that either. But, if you go to a game, like chugging beers is a part of the culture of the Utah Hockey Club. It's a part of the NHL culture, and you see it a lot on the Jumbotron up there. It's taken hold, so you would want to be able to continue that in the Stadium Series. But cool news, and a great story from Cole Bagley.
Steve Bartle breaks news left and right. Dropped a Bartle bomb about the coaching staff hire earlier. We'll talk to him about it coming up right around the corner. We'll talk some college basketball with him, and spring football is underway as well. And we have Utah Hockey Club tickets to give away. So lots going on. We're live at JCW's in South Jordan. Come by and see us. We've got the games up. We're hanging out. We're having a good time. We'll have more next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson, live from JCW's. We're here in the South Jordan location today, right off 106 South, just west of I-15. Our next guest covers the Utes for KSLSports.com. He's already dropping bombs this morning. Big news up on the hill. Jazz making the Utes. Jazz. I've got Jazz on the brain. Utes making an assistant coach hire. He covers the Utes for KSLSports.com. He's our buddy Steve Bartle. What's up, Bartle?
What's up, fellas? How we doing?
We're doing well. What can you tell us about Raphaiel Chillious and how this was the first name that Alex Jensen hired?
Yeah, this was a big one. Obviously, given Alex Jensen coming in and obviously coming from the NBA ranks and a lack of, I guess, familiarity and understanding of the current college recruiting landscape. Recruiting was a big question mark, for Alex coming into the program. And so, the first hire today in terms of his staff and an assistant coach being Raphaiel Chillious is pretty significant and addresses that question mark pretty emphatically, in my opinion. When you look at his background and his resume, he's coming to Utah from the Memphis Grizzlies organization where he's been an assistant coach there. But prior to that, he spent time with programs like Connecticut, Villanova, Washington. He was with Washington for most of the decade in the 2010s and did a really good job recruiting and landing, top flight talent, bringing top flight talent to that Huskies program. Markelle Fultz, DeJounte Murray, he played a big part in the Huskies landing those players. And so, it's a big addition for Jensen to make this the first hire. Obviously, it sends a message that that Alex knows what he needs on his staff and went out and got somebody that fills those needs, in a big way.
Is there any reason that we have not heard Andre Miller has been added?
So he's still finishing up his season with the G League Rapid. I know they've got until March, like the 19th, I think, is their final game up there. So still anticipating him being part of the staff. It's just, there's things that they've got to navigate right now with that, but still there's a lot of positive buzz around him joining the staff as well.
Bringing in Chillious, how quickly does he get to work at Utah? I know Alex Jensen was going to stay with Dallas for some time this season. Is Chillious available right away, and when can Utah start recruiting?
Yeah, so I think I don't know exactly when he's going to officially start in his role, but I know that he's at least going to be the lead guy in Utah's recruiting efforts once the transfer portal officially opens on Monday. Now, there's been a lot of players that have gone into the portal already. Most of them are grad transfers or part of programs where coaches have left and departed, which opens up that 30-day window for them. But the portal officially opens, I believe, on Monday. And so Chillious is going to lead Utah's recruiting efforts in that regard. And And again, just getting back to, his background and history, he comes from, the Northeast, where he helped the South Kent program, which has just produced a number of college-level players and NBA players. Players like I mentioned, Markelle Fultz, Isaiah Thomas, Darrell Wright, going back to 2004. Just so many names. I think even Elijah Hughes, who spent time with the Utah Jazz, came out of that South Kent program. So there's a lot of connections that he's going to bring to the program and will allow him to kind of hit the ground running in recruiting and bringing talent in, to the program once the transfer portal opens.
This is a tough question because we don't know a lot, but what are the expectations, I guess, going to be for Alex Jensen year one?
That's an interesting question, Jake, because, there is a lot of excitement and there is a lot of, newfound hope and just belief in the program again. With what Craig did this last year, he exceeded expectations, but that's because expectations were that they were going to be dead last in the conference. And so for Jensen, I'm not sure exactly what those are going to be yet, but I think coming into the program, you have to kind of take a different point of view with him, and because this is, a rebuild and Jensen is going to come in from ground level and rebuild this program. And so, I think the important thing is to allow him the ability to kind of set his culture, set his core principles and what he wants his program to be. I think as long as Utah gives him that space and allows him that, the success will come. And I think, we'll get a better sense of what to expect from the team once we know what it's actually going to look like and all that. There's just so much unknown. But I think, right now, I think it's just important to allow Jensen to kind of get things put in place and established from his staff to his roster, and then the culture and the identity that he wants to have next season. I think that's where the focus is going to be and what fans should allow for Jensen to accomplish in year one.
Sticking with basketball, but switching to the women's tournament, they tip off in about 15 minutes here, taking on Indiana. What type of a season was this for Utah? Obviously, early shakeup, losing Lynn Roberts to the Sparks, but they kept their head above water, maintained their competitive edge in the Big 12, and are now tournament bound.
Yeah, I think that says a lot of the job Gavin Peterson did, right? You lose a leader like Lynn Roberts, who's just accomplished a lot. She's been a head coach for, quite a while now. And so for him to step into the role of head coach, it wasn't a guarantee that this team was going to, hold it together. But I think it speaks to Gavin Peterson's job and what he did, but also the women themselves and staying bought into, what they had this season and the goals that they still had. In terms of what they accomplished this year, getting to the NCAA tournament for the fourth straight season is a pretty big accomplishment, especially for Peterson being in year one and keeping this group together to keep it on the tracks. I think says a lot because this is Peterson's rookie year as a head coach. He's going to have, he's got a lot of room to grow and improve as a coach himself. And, with Indiana today, this is going to be an interesting matchup. In a lot of ways, these two teams are mirror images of themselves in terms of their play style. They like to shoot a lot of threes. They allow their bigs to shoot from beyond the arc. And so this will be should be an entertaining matchup, but I think a good test for Utah and should be an entertaining game. And then, beyond what they've done this year and today's game in the NCAA tournament, Gavin Peterson not only keeping this group together and keeping them competitive in the Big 12, but keeping their recruiting class together with L.A. Snead and Avery Heimstad and Ella Todd. The L.A. Snead and Avery are two top 40 recruits in the country this year. Snead is a 5-star point guard prospect, and Heimstad is a prolific scorer from that forward spot. And so, to keep that group intact and to stay on this upward trajectory as a program, is the most important thing that Gavin Peterson could have done this season. So to keep it all together and to keep it trending in that way, I think really speaks positively of the program as a whole.
I thought it was unfortunate for Utah as an athletic department to read that quote you got from Kyle Whittingham about how fired up he is that Alex Jensen is the basketball coach. And I say that because if I am an athletic director, I want my football and basketball coach to hate each other so much because they want to be outdoing each other, you see. When Stalin was marching to Berlin,
sure, he
pitted his two top generals against each other in order to get there the fastest.
Yeah. So
when I see that quote from Whit just loving up Alex Jensen, I'm like, oh, that is a terrible sign.
That's a take, Jake. That is a take.
It's a good one.
It's interesting. I do understand that perspective, and I think it's important to understand that Kyle and Alex had a conversation prior to Alex's official hiring, and from what I've heard, Kyle came away really impressed with Jensen and sort of his vision and how he goes about his business, and so I think there's room for a little friendship, a little appreciation of what the other does, and I think there's great respect between the two programs. And I think for Utah, that's more important, is to build a greater community. That's sort of President Taylor Randall's vision with the university as a whole, is building a greater on-campus community. And I think having the athletic programs have that sort of relationship and between them, I think is pretty significant moving forward for Utah.
I would say it's a race to a national title. And you know what? If the other one gets there before you, you're fired.
You're fired. You're out.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
Day one of Jason Beck and Devin Dampier at the University of Utah was yesterday. What did you hear, Steve?
Yeah, the things, went about as well as they can go on day one. And I think it's important to understand that with this, they're installing a totally new offense, but with Beck and Dampier, having that relationship and having that experience this past season together, I think allows them to get off on a quicker start. And also, too, there's been rule changes where now programs can essentially install the offense through walkthroughs and light practices prior to spring ball beginning. And so that was pretty interesting to hear that, with the rule changes, it's allowed Utah to kind of get off to a quicker start with the installation of the new offense. But having Beck and Dampier here together is pretty significant because the two can work together and raising the standard in terms of the installation and how things are going to look. So there's a lot of optimism. And two, there's with so many new faces, it definitely feels like there's a refreshed energy and vibe around the program, which change can be a lot of different things, but it can be a really good thing at times. And I think for Utah this offseason with the changes that they made, I think it can be really good for them moving forward into 2025.
This is pure, excuse me, Steve, speculation, but I am guessing, considering the position group coach's last name is Whittingham, that the tight end will still be incorporated, but that hasn't necessarily been what Beck has done in the past. Do we know how that position will fit into what he wants to do?
Yeah, so I've watched quite a few games of Beck's from this past season at New Mexico, and I was actually surprised at how much he used the tight end position. There was quite a bit of 11 personnel with sort of a more Brent Keithy type of tight end, but he actually used an offensive lineman as essentially a tight end attached to the line, sort of in the mold of a Dallin Bentley or a Cole Fotheringham was a couple years ago. So I still think the tight end position is going to be a pretty big focal point of the offense, and with Landon King and Dallin Bentley, Utah feels good about those two and what they bring in terms of their skill set. But they've also, moved Hunter Andrews to that tight end position. And Hunter Andrews is he's got a background that is very similar to Brent Keithy's, where, the two of them were running backs in high school. Hunter started out as a linebacker, moved to running back, went back to linebacker, and now he's at tight end, just within the last year. And I think tight end can really be, a good home for him, which will allow him to unlock his potential. And I think so I'm excited to kind of learn about this position. I think a lot of people just assume with Beck that it's going to be, a lot of 4 wide receiver sets and spread out and no tight ends are going to be on the field. But I think he's actually going to surprise us with how much he uses this tight end room.
How'd your bracket do day one there, Bartle? I went to our celebrity standings at KSL Sports, and I didn't see you. You do all right?
I haven't looked because I know there were a couple of games that I picked that went wrong early. And so, that once that first one goes, it's like, what's the point in checking on it? So I haven't looked, but I still have my title winner, Houston. They won, and so that's all that I care about. As long as Houston advances and gets to that championship game, that's the focal point for me.
How far did you have BYU going?
Depending on what bracket, I had them at least beating VCU in one of those brackets. I think it was the KSL bracket. But yeah, I don't see them getting past Wisconsin. No way. A red and white team in Under Armour gear. Yeah, no way.
Ben had Clemson going all the way.
Yeah.
So it was a bad day.
No,
brutal.
not all the way. I had him getting to the Sweet 16.
Ben had the Tigers being crowned.
Yeah, I had Kansas going pretty far. I know that, and that was disappointing last night.
Steve, thank you as always. Appreciate it. Keep
Great
up
stuff,
the good
Steve.
work.
Appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
I want to look at Christians.
You want to see where Christian went south?
I want to see where Christian went south.
Good game. We've had 2 good games to start the day. Now it's the first half. It could get ugly still. But Alabama up on Robert Morris, at least from my screen that I'm looking at right now. 34-29, Alabama up. That's a 2-15 matchup. So Robert Morris hanging very tough with this good Alabama roster that a lot of people have in the Final Four. And a potential meeting with BYU. So this is one BYU fans should be keeping an eye on pretty closely.
I can't bag on Christian too much because he and I missed all the same games.
Ones? Yeah.
Except for I got Creighton right, and he foolishly went with Louisville.
What an idiot.
What a moron.
As did I.
You didn't see that coming out, Christian.
Telling you, man, just we'll see how it looks after the weekend's over.
Did you have Robert Morris over Alabama?
No.
Well, you better hope.
I'm going to look like a genius when Creighton beats Auburn.
Sure.
I'm going to look like a dang genius because all of my self-worth is wrapped up in this kind of thing.
It has to be. It's got to be.
You ever met anybody whose self-worth is wrapped up in
their sports takes?
You see it a lot with sports, but it's like maybe it's fantasy football or something. But
yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's interesting. Or it's the same behavior that leads to softball guy.
Yeah.
Yep. You're playing like company co-ed softball, and someone's out there dressing down the second baseman that's also
$400 bat.
HR person, you know. It's that type of.
But there's a lot of those in pickleball right now. I mean, there's a lot of hardcore pickleball people right now.
That's entire life is wrapped up on their Saturday morning showdown on the pickleball court.
It's a take. It's a choice.
But there is that bracket person.
For sure, yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
I might work with one over at the arena.
I don't like when people have 10 brackets and they're like, oh, I picked McNeese to beat Clemson. It's like, yeah, of course you're going to pick that if you fill out enough brackets.
Well, see, Christian's whole self-worth is wrapped up in waiting for his wife outside of concerts.
Sure. He did that once at least.
Those sorts of things. I'll just be here in the parking lot.
Waiting for you.
Have a good time, dear.
Well, she's a catch. Right, Christian?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right, we'll have more coming up next. We're live from JCW's in South Jordan. Come by and see us. Get some great food. Mention the zone and get 10% off. And watch these games. What's the hold on, Ben. Let me bring what's the update on Valor?
37-32 at the break.
All right.
Yeah.
And Alabama up 39-31 on Robert Morris. Let's see, just about to start in about 5 minutes, Iowa State and Lipscomb. Go Iowa State.
Yeah, we'll see.
But it's important. This Baylor game is critical because I am rooting for the Big 12 to do well, and I'm rooting against the SEC. And here's where those two meet.
Yeah.
Baylor and Mississippi State.
For sure.
All right, stay tuned. You can bet 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You love your dog. You can't imagine life without him. So it's time to vote for Fido and the rest of his kind.
What up, dog?
It's the Man's Best Friend Bracket Challenge, where you can vote for the best dogs on the planet. Vote now at KSLSports.com. But take your time. We know these decisions can be rough. Really? Rough? Who wrote this?
You better watch yourself, big dog.
It's the Man's Best Friend Bracket Challenge. Going on at KSLSports.com. Powered by IFA. Stop by one of their stores today or visit them online at IFA.coop. IFA. Helping to grow the things you love.
Who's got it better than us?
Your home for the best sports coverage in Utah. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Live from JCW's in South Jordan. Come see us. Let's give away some hockey club tickets. Caller number 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. You're going to get a pair of tickets to go see the Utah Hockey Club take on the Tampa Bay Lightning coming up on Saturday at the Delta Center. Caller number 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. I mean, I was kind of being sarcastic in that comment about Witt and Alex Jensen, but only kind of. What do I care about the relationship between the football and the basketball?
What do they care?
Yeah, what do they care? Yeah, right. I mean, I know everybody gets a warm fuzzy that like, oh, Witt likes Alex Jensen too, but why? I get why he was asked, I guess. But yeah, honestly.
Well, do you think Harbaugh was happy when Juwan Howard was getting resources for the basketball team that he wasn't getting for the football team? There are finite resources. Ideally, there's not, but there are going to be finite dollars that are donated to your program for basketball and football.
Yeah.
And sometimes they cross over, sometimes they don't.
Attention and all that. I'll give you an example with Kyle Whittingham of something that I think is extremely healthy. I think they still do this from time to time. Maybe they don't. But do you remember when the football team used to kick the baseball team off the baseball field because they needed to do fall camp there?
Mm-hmm.
And then Witt really leaned into paranoia when he really started to get paranoid, and he built he put up the fence around the baseball field for fall camp so you could not see in. Well, there was one day when that wall or cover to the fence or whatever went up, that it was actually the baseball team who was doing the work putting that up.
Uh-huh.
So not only did Witt bully the baseball team off of their field, but he then made them do what he wanted. Now, I'm guessing the baseball coach came away with the lesson, wow, I really got to win more so I don't get pushed around like this.
They've got a,
you know what I mean?
They got a Pac-12 title, right?
Yeah, they went to the NCAA tournament. Golly, actually, it couldn't have been that long after that.
Right, it wasn't, yeah.
Yeah.
It was within a couple of years.
I bet the coach came away with, dang, I got to win more. My guys are out there doing manual labor for the football team.
Yeah.
See, I don't want it healthy. I want it competitive.
Especially because I'm going to have to look at how this all works out. This revenue sharing that's about to hit throughout the Big 12, they're sharing all the money. I don't think the money becomes pre-allocated, right? You get to pick how you spend the money within your athletic department and who gets paid, how the kids get paid?
I don't think that will eventually be how they do it because I don't think that's
Wasn't
legal.
it Title IX related, so it would be distributed like football would get the most?
I don't know. I think that is actually going to be headed for court.
Could be.
Because one president says it one way, the other president says it's the other. I don't think it's the president's decision to make. I think you have to interpret Title IX. I think you have to. That's the law of the land.
This is per NIL-NCAA.com/Big12/. The average, these numbers that are coming out are averages per athlete. In actuality, a few players per team will receive substantially higher than the average, while many will get much less. Yeah, they're already laying out the groundwork for this to be, I
don't think they can do
workplace.
That. Yeah, I don't think they can do that. Maybe they can, but we'll eventually see how it goes. But yeah, I want Alex Jensen at his. If I'm a Ute fan, I want Alex Jensen at his press conference to go, guess what? Utah is never going to win a football game again.
Football and men's basketball account for close to 95% of all the specific team allocated revenues. This is for most power conference schools, with 76% going to the football team and 19% going to the basketball team. Yeah. Yes. Witt's fine as long as that percentage stays right there. In fact, he'd be okay if it creeped up a little bit higher. I'll take 80%. Well, why leave me at 76.5?
Maybe that's what Witt's doing. Maybe he's manipulating.
Yeah. Buttering Alex up.
He's going to butter him up and say, guess what?
Lunch is on me.
Hey, did you hear you're moving out of your basketball facility?
It's weird.
That's a football building.
They're moving the Huntsman Center. It's not to improve it.
Oh, are we switching buildings? No. We're just taking yours.
My guys want to have a place to hoop.
I don't know where you're going to go, but I'm sure it'll be lovely.
I'm excited to watch BYU and Wisconsin tomorrow. I think this is going to be a good matchup. Wisconsin is a very complete team. They have legit bigs. They have a great guard. They've got some size on the perimeter. They have some holes that I think BYU is also going to be able to exploit. This is going to be a very fun game to watch.
By the way, Baylor is up on Mississippi State 43-37 with 16 to go at the half. Alabama is only up on Robert Morris by 4 points.
Robert Morris hit a big three late, so that's been tough. They've not been able to pull away.
40-36. And then Iowa State leads Lipscomb 8-2. Obviously, that's early. Colorado State and Memphis will tip off at noon. How far do you have Colorado State going?
I don't even know if I should have had them winning the first round, and honestly, I don't know if I did.
I had them winning at least one.
Nate Clifford is one of the best players in college basketball right now. Certainly over his last 20 games, he played it. Where did he? No, he just transferred to Colorado State, but he's.
I've got the Rams winning 2.
Okay, well, he's one of the best players in college basketball. Certainly one of the best players in the tournament, and probably going to be a name that gets thrown around with the Jazz with that Minnesota Timberwolves pick in the 20s. So I would keep an eye on him if you're interested in the NBA approach to some of these guys. He could be a name that gets mentioned.
Well, I'll tell you what, watching Colorado State ragdoll Utah State twice certainly left an impression. They're playing really good basketball. And so it'll be another fun day. We're here at JCW's, and you're right, Ben. The game against Wisconsin tomorrow will be interesting because Wisconsin's really good. And BYU is playing, I'd arguably say, its best basketball. I mean, not even arguably, as hot as they finished the season and then did win a game in the Big 12 tournament and coming in playing really, really good.
I think there's a chance BYU has a much better shooting night against Wisconsin than they did against VCU. We'll see how they approach it. Obviously, Wisconsin will shake things up, but their two bigs are pretty unathletic, and they like to drop, so they're not going to come out and defend you over the screens. If BYU gets hot from the three-point line, they could certainly take off, and you saw when Yegor Demon had 3 threes in the first half, which is very unusual. He's not that good of a shooter.
But they only hit 7, right?
They only hit 7 overall. So as a team, they didn't need a whole lot. He got some early, which I think loosened up VCU a little bit. But I'll be curious how Wisconsin approaches it because, if you're betting on BYU to only make 7 threes as a team, I think you're going to be in trouble.
But Wisconsin could just dunk at the rim every time.
They have 2 big guys. Now, they're not, like I said, they're not super athletic. And Crowley, I have to look up the guy's name.
Yeah, but you don't love Keita. And
I would go right into his chest.
Defense.
I would absolutely go right at his chest. The Winter kid can't do it. He's not tough enough. I should say he's not strong enough. I don't know how tough he is. But I would go right at him. Yeah, I mean, when I've seen teams have success against BYU this year, they have just gone right at Keita. He's so dangerous as a help side shot blocker with his athleticism and how quickly he can rotate and get off the ground. But I think if you go into his chest, he kind of acquiesces. Certainly saw that against Utah quite a bit. So that would definitely be my approach if I were any other team. And we'll see if they do it.
And Foose was able to physically dominate against VCU. I don't think he can do that against Wisconsin. They're going to have to figure out another way to win.
Yeah, they are. And they've got guards and they've got depth, which should allow them to do it.
And maybe this is the game where you make it rain threes, and that's how you pull out the W. That might be the way to do it against a team like Wisconsin. Man, I hope the SEC loses. How many?
Crowell, excuse me. It wasn't Crowell. It was Crowell. Stephen Crowell. He was 2 of 3 from the three-point line, too. If he wants to hang out around the three-point line and hope that brings Keita out, that could also be an advantage for Wisconsin.
How many SEC teams lost yesterday? 3?
Was it that many?
I'm looking through it now. I know Mizzou lost to Drake. Let's see. And Georgia lost to Gonzaga. I thought there was one more. Oh, and Texas lost the day before. So 3 SEC teams down, Ben. I hope 3 more lose today. And you know what? Mississippi State is on its way to losing. Baylor leads 45-39. And I'm betting Ben, Robert Morris comes back and beats Alabama.
You think they're going to beat Alabama?
I think they'll erase that 4-point deficit, and they'll take down the Crimson Tide.
Not necessarily impossible to get over that 4-point deficit. Not unbreakable. Not insurmountable, I should say.
Hey, Maryland, Baltimore County beat UVA.
Yeah. No, absolutely could happen.
Old Bob Morris could take down Alabama.
You show up and you think you're ready to play right away. I mean, was it Kentucky last year that lost to Oakland? Who's the team? Yeah, it was Oakland, Michigan, right? It wasn't Oakland. It wasn't Oakland, California. But they bounced out and had that big win. So you will you'll see the upsets. We didn't see many yesterday. I didn't think yesterday was a very good day one. There was a couple of okay games. McNeese State was only good because the game was close late and because it was an upset. But they were up 18 points, 20 points early in that game against Clemson, and just at the end just kind of let them come back into it. But I didn't think there was a lot of truly fabulous, memorable moments from day one yesterday.
What do you think about an NCAA tournament bonus $1,000 per coach for every timeout not called?
Yeah, I would do that for every coach at every level of sport that generates revenue.
That could afford it.
Yeah.
You get a $1,000 game bonus for every timeout you leave.
And everybody gets a $2,000 bonus on top of it if the game's wrapped in under 2 hours. Great.
Oh, absolutely.
Coaches wouldn't challenge anything. Coaches would never call timeouts. Be like, we're down 1 with 6 minutes to go. We're probably going to lose this one.
Keep going.
Just
keep going. Coach, I'm really tired. Don't care.
Don't care. No dead balls, guys.
Let's go.
We're not doing any substitutions.
Nothing
to slow the game down.
See? Sometimes it all comes down to the carrot and the stick and what's more appropriate. In this case, I don't think you can punish coaches for calling timeouts, but I feel like you can reward them for not calling timeouts.
I think you can punish them. You call a timeout, you call a challenge, you get a challenge wrong, $3,000.
Oh, we're not talking about challenges.
Okay.
No, I've told you my theory on challenge. I absolutely think there should be a punishment for challenging and getting it wrong. I think it should be public.
Okay. Not like not a technical foul where the team gets a free throw. You want him shamed after the game.
Oh, or no, I want him shamed / injured during the game.
Injured?
Well, I don't know if I could.
Dodgeball.
I've actually come up with an idea about this. But
the head coach or George? George, the challenge guy for the Jazz.
Oh, no, it has to be the head coach.
Will?
It has to be the head coach.
Okay.
It's even better. They have to go to midcourt, and the other team gets to pick someone from their bench to kick the coach right in the groin.
If they find George is the Jazz's replay guy, if they find him every time he got it wrong, he would never challenge anything.
But it's not him who's challenging it. It's Will.
But that's the nice thing. Will can afford it if he gets it wrong.
But Will can say, well, not
But
not
George can't afford it
not
if
if he's writhing in pain at half court. And can you imagine how mad he'd be at George? So George is never.
My girls aren't having a Christmas this year, George.
Going to challenge anything ever again because Will Hardy is going to be so mad about getting kicked. It's going to be like, George, dude, how'd you get that wrong, bro?
George would lose his job quickly.
I threw up at midcourt.
Tracy Morgan.
I can't walk straight. George, what were you looking at, dude? It's obviously a foul. You're killing me. Yeah, no, finding coaches for getting challenges wrong, 1,000%.
Yeah.
I think they should.
You're going to slow the game down?
Immediately.
It's going to cost you.
$500,000.
Pricey.
George, you better be dang sure.
Loose on a Friday.
Dang sure that this is the right thing because it's going to cost me $500,000. Stay tuned. We'll wrap up the show from JCW's coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, bro. You hear us every day with our crazy opinions.
Hey, what you doing?
Well, now, it's time to hear from you.
Hey, great show.
Download the KSL Sports app and fire off your thoughts with the call-in tab on the bottom of your screen.
Your show is fantastic. It's the one that captivates me the most.
You can tell PK to stop singing.
G-Bangs! G-Bangs!
Let Jake and Ben know what you really think of the Jazz. Woo! Tell Hans and Scotty about your favorite barbecue spot or what color of tie JJ should be wearing on TV. The best entries will be played on the air. Download the KSL Sports app now and hit the call-in button to let your voice be heard.
I think you guys do an incredible job.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, These guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Two amigos on their ways, talking sports. They got him made drinks and also loves his tie-dye. Ben's got style with his scarves. Oh my.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, live from JCW's Watch Party Day number 2. This time we're at the South Jordan location, 106 South, just off of I-15. You go west. It's across the street from the Mulligans. We've got the van out front, wrapped and looking very nice. So you'll know where to go and come in here and watch the game with us. Things are just getting heated up, I think, as folks get ready, want to watch a little basketball over lunch. This is the perfect place to do it. Ben, I know you're going to go then do a little mini golf at Mulligan's after the show.
Got to do it.
That's very
when you're this close. You've got to take advantage of that opportunity.
Do people know that Ben is actually a semi-professional
competitive mini golfer
player?
Competitive mini golfer.
Over the weekends,
yeah.
he travels to destinations like Ely, Nevada, to compete in the
Great Western Showdown.
The big tournaments. The Great Western Showdown. I wish competitive mini golf was a thing.
It is. I just don't think it's that big here, but of course it is. Anytime there's a game being played.
There's not a pro mini golf league.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
I'm looking at
professional.
Here, you look it up and tell me.
Mini golf. The U.S. Pro Mini Golf Association.
That's silly. They go to all the world's best mini golf courses. What constitutes that?
USPMGA.
Yeah, you got to be a part of it.
Does it say?
I'm sure you have to pay to be a member.
Is there a tour?
I don't know.
I mean, I just want to know what the criteria is for like a tour
they
level.
They can't afford to travel.
Mini golf.
Yeah,
league.
right. Yeah, certainly nobody can afford to travel.
The Great Western Open
Showdown
in Ely, Nevada.
Yeah.
They've got a fine course there. It's got a real tough windmill.
Yeah. Yeah. They got one of the loops.
Just brutal. I don't know how people even do it. Let's see. The second half is underway. Alabama leads Robert Morris 44-38. And Baylor leads Mississippi State 56-47. About 10 minutes to go there. So go Bears. And Iowa State all over Lipscomb 27-16.
Hopefully we get a better day today. And then hopefully we get a good weekend.
Better meaning like better games?
Better games. The games
more
yesterday were bad. They just weren't close. Most of the games were 15 to 20 points. It was really not all that intriguing to watch. I hope we get some more important games. And, I'm not going to make any big proclamations off of one game. I hope that NIL doesn't stretch this thing out so we get more opening weekends like this where, the talent gap for the haves and the have-nots is so big that we don't get, the fun opening weekend anymore.
Yeah. I mean, what you described, though, the 15 to 20-point game was the BYU game.
Right.
I mean,
they were
15
exactly right.
to 20. I mean, the final was 9, right? But it was 15 to 20. Now, Greg did not call the game like it was 15 to 20. He called it like they were down 20.
Right. It's fine. Don't want to get excited about anything because it hurts worse when you get excited.
That's
when you
true.
go up, the crash is much harder.
Well, yeah.
So
as
if you
I
stay
said,
down,
he watched him blow a 26-point lead in Dayton.
Right. So that's the right approach.
To just assume they're going to
blow it
at all times
till the buzzer goes off.
Is that how you watch sports when you're emotionally invested in the game?
Life. Yeah. Expect the worst.
You know what? I used to work with a guy whose legit philosophy was that, and the worst always happened.
Kevin Graham?
No, I'm thinking about my guy Austin.
Okay.
My guy Austin Horton. He's always planning for the worst, constantly.
Yeah.
And inevitably had the worst luck of any human I've ever met. Again, not down on his luck, but just bad luck.
Yeah. Well,
like home run hits your empty seat while you went to get some water. Bad luck.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that. You can create your own bad luck. I certainly believe that.
If you throw,
you got to be optimistic.
You throw that energy into the atmosphere.
Yeah, if you bring a negative attitude, that's one thing. If you expect low and are pleasantly surprised by the highs, you'll have a good life.
Why don't bad things happen to Lloyd? He's like the most negative guy I
don't know. Maybe horrible things happen to Lloyd.
He
ask him personal
he
questions.
can cast his negative energy onto other people, kind of like voodoo.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe he gets all. Maybe he's like it just all bounces off of it.
Like if he ever tells you to have a blessed day, you know you're really in trouble.
Yeah, that's his sign.
you are gonna have the opposite. It's gonna be quite a bad day, actually.
Yeah.
All right, we want to say the thanks to the good folks here at JCW's for hosting our show for 2 days in a row now. We love their food. We love the atmosphere. It's the best. Coming up next, Hans and Scotty. They're going to be right here at this very same location, and so are JJ and Alex. All of those shows are doing better than our show on the bracket.
Yeah. We'll catch up. Monday will be updated.
If you're keeping track at home, if you entered our bracket madness and you want to be eligible for the $500 because you've got to beat Jeremiah Jensen, he had a good day yesterday. 13 out of 16. So he's setting a high bar. I'm guessing that will collapse later on. By the way, did Jeremiah know that he was going to be the bar setter before he made his picks?
Well, I don't think the money's coming out of his pocket.
No, but like if he were cool, he would have picked a bunch of dogs.
Right.
He would have really mailed it in.
Beat him.
Yeah, he had Florida going down in the first round.
Then right. Florida's going to go.
I haven't even
Auburn's
here. Let me look
gone.
at it real quick. I know we got to step aside for Hans, but let me see what Jeremiah's doing. What his Final Four is all about.
If you beat JJ, you better deserve it. That's the strategy they're going with.
Oh, JJ went like all chalk.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's the right move.
Florida, Michigan State, Duke, and Houston.
It's the right move.
With Houston over Florida in the final.
Yeah. Well, okay. That's like I think I might have that same thing. So I'm going to go. I'm going after. I'm trying to get that $1,000.
Number one seats. What
I want
shocker.
that $1,000.
All right, stay tuned. Hans and Scotty G coming up next.
Thanks, Christian.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.